We've got to stick to seasons, I believe, for fishing, the same as onshore. There's a season for everything onshore. And the same is applicable to sea, so that when your prawns are carrying the seed or lobsters are carrying seed, you know that they're given a chance. Yeah, otherwise it's not going to last. Lobster fishing is poor, very, very poor, because people are landing buried lobsters, and some fishermen, were getting the hen lobsters and brushing the seed off them. I've seen in Malek brushing the seed. If a restaurateur or hotelier or the fisherman that landed, was caught, he would be fined £2,000. Now, I understand that out in Maine, if you're caught with undersized lobster or buried lobster, that it's not a question of being fined or whatever. You lose your license for fishing. That is draconian, but it works. In Stornoway, the Spanish vessel goes in, he'll be escorted in by the British Fishery Protection vessel. The following day he'll be up before the sheriff or whatever. He'll be fined £30,000 and he goes off that night and he does the same thing again. So if their license was taken off them for all times, that would put an end to it. And I think it's got to be draconian. I think it has to be.
That's where my people came from. And then at the waterfall, if you look to the right, well to the right of the waterfall, and up at the top you can make them out, there's 3 grey ruins. Now that's where the Kellys came from, that's where the cradle was set on fire and so on and so forth.
One of the ruins in Berwick, adjacent to the Standing Stone area, is known to us as the Temple Ruin. I mean, people call it Tuchtenhample, Temple Ruin. Probably the stones from the temple were used by the Norsemen when they built the fort. The people were poor. The people were very poor, but they were hardy. My great-grandfather was born in Berwick. I'm named after him. His other 3 brothers, much older, they went on to a 3-master back in Broadford and found themselves out in Australia. It was a very difficult time, very, very difficult time. However, those that found themselves out in Australia and New Zealand did extremely well. I had 2 granddads who became very successful farmers out in Australia, still keep in touch with their families. Knowing that my people were cleared out and that, I'm not bitter about it, but there are people, even in this area today, that are very, very bitter indeed. Yeah, very, very bitter. My dad went to sea at the age of 16, and he was on the Atlantic run. We've got his diaries here, and my father wanted to get married, and my mother said, well, if we're getting married, we'll have to give up forget about the sea, otherwise we're not getting married. So we did. He packed the sea in, and he had been all over the world by that time, and came back here to Heast with nothing. When he came back, himself and his neighbour, and they both had families, they decided that they had to do something. And they thought, well, the East Coast boys were beginning to come to Mallock, and they were hearing, that there was a bit of money to be made from lobster fishing and so on and so forth, and nobody was quite sure if there were many lobsters around here or not, so they decided that they would build a boat.
Yes,
Easterly winds, they don't fish very well. As soon as the wind goes round to the southwest, yeah.
Up until 1944-45, lobsters were sold by the dozen. And I always remember the first lot of lobsters that he sent to Billingsgate. He got 4 shillings and 6 pence a pound for the lobster, and that was a lot of money. He was in the top shop in Broadford, and a very good businessman, John McInnes was, and he was quite inquisitive, and he knew everybody. And he said, Lachie, that was my dad, he said, I see you every Saturday going over to Liveris, and I understand you sell lobsters to the lodge. And my dad said, yes. He said, if you don't mind me asking you, what do you get for them? So my father said, I get 10 shillings for the dozen. My boy, he says, you're never going to make money until you sell them by the pound. That was the shopkeeper. And that's what happened. And when my father was sending lobsters away, it wasn't 2 or 3 dozen, it was, 150 dozen, 160 dozen a week. Yeah. I remember one particular Saturday out with him, and he had 9.5 dozen for the day, and that was 115 pots, all the goods trade. My goodness me, the boxes of lobsters, unbelievable, coming from everywhere. And it would depend on the trades in those days. They were there bang on the village at that time. The Mallock fishermen discovered areas west of the Heasts. That's where that rocket ridge is today. I couldn't tell you. It might be shelving up to 25, 30 miles. And they found rich lobster fishing grounds there in 1947-48. And the local boys reckoned that 2 or 3 years after the discovery of that, that the lobster fishing in this part of the world started going down. I think, krill fishing, as far as I'm concerned, it's not because I'm a krill fisherman, but I always feel that the species have a choice, whether they go into the krill or they don't go in, Whereas with the dredge or a troll, they have no choice. They haven't. They have no choice. At least with krill fishing, all the smaller species will go through the mesh. They're not crushed. Whereas in these trawls, the whole lot is, I've seen my nephew come home with a lobster claws. Fresh, we ate them. Massive big claws, and it came up the rest of the bodies, heaven knows, were mangled up. And I mean, that's criminal. It must break up a chain too, if you think of it. I mean, they're all interdependent, aren't they? And it's been wrecked. There's no doubt about it. I believe, rightly or wrongly, that there's nothing safe. Nothing. When they brought out the first trawl, which scraped along the seabed, they weren't happy with what was going into that trawl. They had the trawl attached to an axle and a wheel on each end. And they reckoned that they weren't getting what they should be getting. So they came forward with another axle with flappers on it. When they put these flappers on the axle, and they were flapping the seabed as they were going along, these were coming up, and of course they were into the bag. They're nasty. They're nasty beasts. From here they go into a vivier tank in Broadford, and they're kept at proper temperature, and the tanks are aerated and oxygenated, and they've got to be arrive in Spain live. Norwegians are their masters are producing equipment for catching fish, and they're getting more and more adept at that sort of fishing. You dive and you see crabs, brown crab, lobster, spoutfish, all lying there mangled up and dead. It's not on. It's got to be stopped. I mean, we're now hearing in this part of the world that they're fishing out to 500-600 miles west of Ireland, and a British fleet as well, and Spaniards and French, and using monofilament nets at a horrendous depth, and going to market and leaving these nets set. And some of these nets have been found in balls floating on the surface with porpoises, and I know somebody that picked up 2 of them. One, you just wonder where it's going to end. And we talk about North Sea oil and so on and so forth, and in 50 years' time, North Sea oil will be more or less finished, and fishing would go on forever. I mean, if it was properly managed, and it would sustain people living on the coastal fringe. Yeah.